storyteller. Now I know it is well, it is well. That's the story I'll tell. There were some nights that felt like they would last forever, but you kept me breathing. You were with me right then, and all that you have done for me, I can never hold it in. So here's to me telling this story over and over again. The mountain where I climbed, the valley where I fell, you were there all along. That's the story I'll tell. You brought the pieces together, made me the storyteller. Now I know it is well, it is well. That's the story I'll tell. That's the story I'll tell. Yeah, yeah. You hold the broken, you heal my every cry, every cry. My eyes are open, I know that it is well, yeah, yeah. It is well. Oh, you hold the broken, you heal my every cry, every cry. And my eyes are open, and I know that it is well. It is well. Ooh, the mountain where I climbed, the valley where I fell, you were there all along. That's the story I'll tell. You brought the pieces together, made me this storyteller. Now I know it is well, it is well. That's the story I'll tell. That's the story I'll tell. For years and years and years I'll tell. That's the story I'll tell.
Recording in 3, 2, 1.
Di sambulo binakara turangan na maraman na lorobo naman elewan ni borong at kumay en pangindinday. Tali na kaya na po sa kalu. Usakan na kalu bicara maya, bera ni ko kunikune, awasa kiliko. Ni tiko nga na kete, tinamu awasa anding itagi ko, apaga tigi tagi ko, mononda profita, nabi matanitu. Bob ni binakan ni rawan ni may talang patiko en bongen day may bagan din tagatiko binaka ni kenandina ni bosa ni klo baleta tiko on bulan do na tamata en basi kamay ng bundo kabaga taw ni tagatiko ni bosa ni klo ni sangan indua en basi ke buru-buru non anu mga baga taiko ay bosa tabutan na klo bicher maya bagan di tagabuha imberan ni ko akune kune se bia kaibua iko ceremony na numu kune abaga tautaki manending dingaw sala kaboti enandona ngauna onan basi ko mai buru kabatala ngakina on dingi tagi ko nandona nakina nakia oiko na lagi bagadora se dabana baga ulumbale se dabana kauna lagi lagu duruma na naki ngango ayabu tagi kina no basi ko mai buru ko ya u marokina ni mungin dindai ni rawani umai baga taundi tagi na nungumbulo baga tagi au rawani mai tano kina bikemuni enam bungin kuwa ya udah betul main koro kona ngasowa ena tiki no tawake en mai undu poindi ena sana boka turanga la konrobe en katul ni singa tingaruni bulana bagi ono sama bulu korwa awa sulukina main koro sungi mekia ame lo na ngauna sa tamatan bulkina sa waro na buli kito mani gali susungi tiko na nito bonua ni titei ya nan dua sarna koro mai sangani na koro na betau tino sangani na sam tanga ba turang o kumrobe na bonua kitu sama kina ba be bakani na bonua lo mi kino yau na bonua ndende kina mbula ndende ngele be batu bula libu ngauna libu na kai tibaki era sangani mbula rawa orke na mena koro mai na ngauna ya me lo ban ngaungo era banggang karangele ne be sai bonua libu kabatal nga kida berna takadaka sara mai tu ngone be bonua takadaka sara mai bangkar bonua talitunga berambul kina kaya begitu na ngauna au sundu kino yau na nunggu tumbo mena koro welinga ya au sa lagi susungi tu ina bonua ni takadaka kena bali no mai tang lo kemudian na pengindai eu tumbo lagi mai ena fam kembali nunggu bakasama nunggu rai kato lo kaya ya mbuli lagi ena dua na bonua ni tete kaya na mataka sari tu tunga na bikau ul ni bonua rungola tu na tangina manu batal ngakin na ronron ni uduai ka bukian nunggu bulan nunggu tumbo lagi tiku mai ena bonua ni to tete ya me buli lagi na tapa na mbula kaya dua tu ne ulu tangalibu di kau maro tangane visinga na nunggu velu takana mbula baleta na mbula lebu tu na kene mbale ndui ni bonua ndui tukina nda bagai mbale takara kina na tapa ni mbale ni mbula vikenda viau ni mai talno tiku na ndai na mbula kene mbale viau ya anda bonua saranga enda tiko kina ena ngau enda tiko kina nonda vitoso kitiko enda loma ni mbai ni mbula iya kena baka sama tito mumeka na mbula singa tal nindu ara ni baka madalataka ena kena baka sama baka tamata boleta na kanga enda baka dirin taka ena ngau enda mbula tikina ya ni mbale ni mbula vikenda na ngau tumbula itu mikina ena bonua ni titei orau na nunggu tumbu orau e rombula nga baka na koro era umole rua nga mai untu talenga tumagu mena korong na sova na nungku na na koro ni kondi ya ena koro sana kan dua nga ena sana maluata ena udu ni bonua tinga mai untu poindi kaya ni non rombulo rau ero toto bata rua na non rombulo rau na takataka na mbula be rau ken bale na takataka ken bale ni tiko na bonua ni tei baya onga yan ranga na mataka osan kilatinga sele faele na vitalano nga ni takataka mendalai takataka klan da sangone ya ngono baka tumbura rawa lima na kolokon sa baka rati iya esanga na masu yan ranga bango ya na vitunrubi na matakalala ya mbale tanga lago bikau landa tuba ya na temu na kabaya baka tumbura rawa to bikenda iya ninda sangone takabaya enda satu nikila na kene mbale na kene nga weekend dan ninda sana mai bakayalo iya ena ngauna ya beba ka weekend kene bega ninda ngone ndora ka nonda senga italitaka ni tubu tigo mekia me do ngona ni buli ngosale class 2 na ono bulga diwa au ndoru makatale nga ngauna sa ambiu sombukin na kuila na Union Jack ka ureda talanga ne kena ba rawata ki na kuila sa ti unikua ne kena to ba te kwa na nonda banua au ndoru makama ba lele ngona ya kene do ba no mitu ena ve tamba mbaki me lo tiku menikua na eta na tuena ngona na session day ngai muri sanga me bokande ita ke Independence Day ko bakanda maro taga tuena sini kuwa au buli tiko mai na ko buli nga mai sangani ngona na Tara District School kelas 2 me do mana kelas 1 de kila nang ngona waya sanga ngon sala eni tiko mai ni titi baya minang kala ko buli gali matala na kalo ko sambimbu mai kia ngona ni buli abaka be yau ngon ko primary school tu kan gue talita kana buli boleh tahu untuk bagai lo pemain ngona ya ini satu kita ngona di buli melihat lo na kelas 8 saya alma tu mebele nunggu bakasama sa bagai mbale mebe una tiko na fam sa rai de tiko na non round dau lunrubi kito round na round nunggu tumbu ya na bakasama ni takataka sa ngai tibu ni sa rai de tiko mai na katuloko sa ngai salah ko menunggu bakasama itu na kabina kana takataka minta takalaka saru tamberuka itu na takalaka ya sang na takalaka enda na sang ni mbula raw ida sang kai mbale mai nonda unda ukati ko rowa mimbita ka tionda bito men nonda koronda mai tungo nda bangkara na mbula duna mbule binakalaki me raw na buli kabaya kila enta sangone nda pusta ki minta lagi buli iya sang tu di mbale pikanda iya un satu satu tinga mai nukutos tiko mai sativu meu rei tiko mai na kayalo sang kai pakai mbale biau pakai musa talita kan menurut ini tiendo na ka tumbu samaki me lawan ngoni tamu suikina sa pakai kami tiko mai satu kita guna nunggu buli mai nangona ya sa ambiu tala mai na puno ni takataki tu sangol tala mai na kor mai baga tiki na primary school mai na klasi vitu, me lova na klasi walu, na undu district school, o tia umaningola sara na junior secondary school, mai nambala maluata, ili utalanga rawarong o te manambong ndindai ki mea uliwata mai kia ara kila na boarding school. And the Kilatu Nangauna boarding school, Sakanabula Sakwatuna, and Libutan Tobulili and Dolakina. Yes, Satigabu, me Bulidikina, how to be responsible for your own life. Koya, and Bongin Dindai, you may tell Natagatia, and the Bibuki weekend on the radar, how we were brought up as individuals. Me Bagandi Tagitukina, the very scripture that I'm sharing tonight, before you were conceived, I knew you, and in your mother's womb, I set you apart to be the prophet of nations. So in secondary school, now my mind began to drifted away, not from concentrating on school. My mind is now attracted to the farming area that I was brought up. Because while I was in school, I saw the leaves of taro swing like that. I saw kava leaves, because I already saw money as I grew up, as our parents begin to teach us how to work hard, how to be responsible, how to do things on your own, how not to rely on other people, how to have your own tools. All these little details of life, we were taught to become strong people. We were taught to work hard as much as we can. We were taught how to live a life that is not dependent on other people, but you are to depend on your own strength, how to survive. But one of the things that we miss as growing up, we don't really have the knowledge of God. That's something that I learned along the way. But because we live in a community where church is the normal thing on Sunday, we always go to church on Sunday. Every Sunday, we were forced to also to go to church, and Sunday in, Sunday out, Sunday school, all this we were taught. But in relation to how important God is in our own family, there was none that was there. The only thing that I know much in growing up in my own house was work. You have to work. So as I grew up, and being in school in grade 9 to grade 10, I begin to do things that is not right, especially in relation to education. So the study is no longer part of my life. I go to school, just learn the things that we were taught, but really not concentrating to study well. But one good thing, at the end of the day, I do pass the junior exam when I was in grade number 10. Also that year, before the exam was over, we were part of a team that drank homebrew, and we were suspended, and we did not see the final paper of that of the exam of the Fiji Junior. But luckily, at the end of the day, I have a good pass in the Fiji Junior exam. So in 1980, I moved to St. Bede's College in Sabsabu, where I attended my secondary school. While I was in Form 5, now my mind was no longer really concentrating much on school. My passion now and the drive of my heart is to go back to the village, because of seeing the result of working hard. So my mind was asking, why should I learn and find a job when I already saw money back in the village? Because the reason why we go to work to get money, but I already saw money hanging on trees, but you need to sweat it out to get it. The difference is, that's where I learned, it's good for you to be your own boss rather than relying on somebody else, because that's what we were taught. So I did not really finish well at grade number 11, so I failed the exam that year. So when I failed, now I confirm, oh, next year I will be in the village. I'll do the farming, I will make a lot of money, I will support my 2 other siblings, was still in school. One was in Form 3 and the other one was in grade number 6. So that was my goal. I have to work hard now and help my dad, because as far as I'm concerned, my father was a hard-working man with my mother. So there were thousands of cover was there. So when I saw that, I know I can increase this in a much better capacity, because my dad do it by himself with us, but now I can hire people. So that's my thought. I'll hire people and increase the quantity of what need to be planted in the land, so I'll get a lot of money. At that time, there was no road. We always travel by dinghy to reach the nearest place of where the bus was. To those of you from the Konrobe, at that time, we get the bus at the Tambia in the Nateo Bay area. That's when we want to go to Sausabu. If not, we'll have to walk across from where we live in Navitau across to Nandongo to find the bus on the other side. So it takes a few hours or nearly half a day from early in the morning, walk across the hills, and that means you walk across the whole of Vanuatu, across the island from coast to coast, and catch the bus. So that was the life then. It was exciting because you didn't see the road, you didn't see the car. The only thing you know is use your leg cruiser or use a dinghy or using a sail, and those were the form of transport we have in the day. Okay? And walking from long distance was part of life. Just for example, for us to leave my village in Undu in Nangasova to Navitau is about 90 miles. So we walk there just for a day, just that short to us. Today, as we think of it, my goodness, okay? I was thinking about early in the morning, I wake up very early from our farming area. About 5 o'clock, I walk the whole day. At 3 o'clock, I reach Undu Point. So I start at high tide, so low tide in the middle. So before the tide arrived back to the shoreline, I already reached home. So that's how much we walk in the day. So today, because we have accessible to transport, become very difficult now, and we see where we used to walk before. We wonder again, my goodness. But just imagine, the thinking of the day was fitting well to what was taking place during the time. Eh? So as I left school, going back home, now if I can recall some of the wonderful memories in school. In school, while I was in Form 5, in the eyes of the teacher, I was really one of the best. I was committed in all of the big hard work that they need help. I was the one that they called me to do it because they trust me. But without realizing, behind the curtain, many of the bad things too that happened, I was involved in there too, but without them knowing it. For example, in boarding school, we always know food is very small, but because I have access to the storehouse to where all the things, so my friend who was our cooker, he was a criminal, hardcore criminal. He's from Vanuatu too. He used to be in the Max in Namboro, but now he's a changed man, he's got children, he's a very good guy. So he was our cook. So he was my best friend. So now, because he is the one who holds the key to the food storehouse, so I know because I always bring the bread every morning, put it there and for the brunch, and at the same time, when we get hungry in the night, now I know the road too to climb climb to the wall and get into. And now one day the cooker said, some people are stealing. If I caught one of you guys, you'll get it. Without realizing, I told my friends, if my friend knows that I'm the one who climb in there and get all this, I won't be responsible anymore for taking care of the bread. Eh? So those were some of the things that I can recall in school, the good and the bad that I used to involve myself. One of the thing is, especially because I was good in the face of the public to the staff. When I told them I'm returning home, they want to sponsor me again to return to school. See, this is the brothers who are leaders, because I was really good to them, because they know when there was a need needed, I was available. There are things that others do not really want to do. The difficult work, I was willing to do that. So they want me back, and they want to sponsor me to repeat in my grade 11. Then I said, thank you very much. I choose to stay home and help my dad and do our farming. So while I was in the village now, making good plans to enlarge our farming capacity, while I was thinking, planning, I will hire some people to get these few acres of land and plant Angona here, and they will plant cocoa here. At that time, the cocoa market was still good. Joseph Naka, who is now Pastor Naka, they run a big business of buying wet cocoa beans and dried them. So I saw them, they have money then. I was also planning, okay, I'll do this too, because if they can get money out of buying wet cocoa beans, I'll do likewise. So while I was planning to do that, then I got sick. In my young days and growing up, I enjoy my growing up. One of the biggest challenges I faced when I was sick, I got sick. A sickness that the doctor could not understand or explain what sickness is it. So I survived that one. Now, in 1981, when I'm now 18, when I left school, have a big dream and want to make a lot of money, and I was planning, if the road arrives here, I'll be the one to buy a car and have a transporter. That was my dream, because I know if I can work hard, seeing what my parents have done, I can make a lot of money. I'll have money in my pocket. So my dream came to a halt when I got sick this time. This time I got paralyzed from my neck right to the very tip of my toes. That's when I lost my dream. So I was admitted here in Suva in 1981, and some of you listening were not born at that time. So I spent about 4 months here. I got paralyzed. After 3 weeks spending in the hospital, that's when I reached the very brink of my life, that I can no longer handle it anymore, because I'm now paralyzed from my neck down, and at the same time I got severe headache. And that week I didn't want to eat. Whatever I ate or drink, I vomited whole day, whole night, until nothing was left. So day 1, day 2, day 3. Day 4, I make a decision, okay, the best option now that I have to die. Like I was willing from the very bottom of my heart that now I'll have to ask God that I have to die. That day, I was like closing my eyes, and I saw somebody came and took me to the village, back, take me home, right to Nangasokwanund, and show me the village, all my families and all my friends. I told the guy I don't need them anymore. Then he took me to our village farm and showed me my dreams and my plan, what I really want to do. I told the one who was taking me in my mind, I don't want to see that happen. I just want to die. That was day number 4. And that day, then I prayed to Jesus. A very short prayer that morning at CWM Hospital. It was before men's medical ward. Now it is the children's ward today. At that time, the hospital was awesome. At that time, the discipline was high. The only new wing that we have in the day was the maternity unit, without having the extension that we have today. At that time, the hospital was strict. It was discipline. Food was good. You pay 50 cents a night. So that morning, I can recall a Thursday morning, I woke up in the morning, I looked to the ceiling, then I determined today I will die. Then I pray, Lord, that was my prayer. I want to die. Suddenly, the atmosphere of the hospital, of the room, changes. I feel a very, very cold wonderful wind blew across the hospital. Then I fell asleep. When I was sleeping from about 7:30 in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, thinking that I'm dead. That's to me. When I woke up in the afternoon, I saw the ceiling again. The last thing I saw now becomes the first thing I saw again when I woke up. The first thing I did, I laughed. I laughed at myself. My goodness, I'm still alive. See? But one great thing happens. I was surprised when, see, I cannot move my hands, my legs. I was surprised that I can pull my leg back. Oh, I'm healed. I'm recovering now. So I begin to move my hands like that, my fingers. Then I try my left side. Oh. Now I got excited now. So I forgot about the prayer that I did, forgot about God. Then I was excited because since that day, life began to change slowly. I'm recovering. I'm now becoming happy nearly every day. And when the nurses, the sisters, the matron come, they saw me, they say, you were the happiest one in the hospital. Because other people are getting mad, but they did not realize I'm the only one getting happy because I'm now receiving recovery very quickly. So I spent the rest of the few months there, from April to July. Then I was discharged. So I returned home in the month of September that year. When I returned home, I forgot about my dream. Then I was thinking, okay, I now lost more than half of my strength. I'll try to recover slowly until I get well. Maybe I'll pick up my dream again. That was what I thought. 1981, 82, 83. By 83, I gained the strength now. I can go back and cut copra. I can go back and do a little bit of diving in the sea. No, I'm picking up now. But still in my mind, I don't want to go back to the dream that I had before, to do farming and make money. In December 1984, my nephew, who is now the pastor in Hawaii, Elisa Kilivo, he was also going through a severe injury in rugby while he was in school. That same year, he was also recovered and get healed because my other cousin, he came to Suva to buy a car. He met Jesus here in 1983. Then he returned home in 1984. He did not arrive in the village, just stayed in Lambasa where Elisa Kilivo was staying. There in Lambasa where he shared the gospel to Elisa Kilivo gets saved. When Kilivo gets saved, he was thinking of me because also of my condition. So that year during Christmas, he came to the village. And that same year, in the 26th of December, 1984, he shared to us the gospel. That's the day I was born again. Now, after that day, we spent 3 days of fasting and praying. After the 3 days, I now reaffirmed or confirmed in my heart that God called me to preach the gospel. So I begin to have that hunger in my soul to read and study the Word of God. Because in my own house, even though we go to church every Sunday, but we don't really have any idea of who God is. Now, that's when I recall again. I pray here in the hospital 3 years back. Now, that day, I now begin a new journey with God. That was the turning point of my life. So I now know that I'm called to preach the gospel. That was December. In February 1985, I began to commit myself in the church, in the Methodist church then, to do the Lotumosumasu that was done on Saturday and Sunday morning. By June that same year, I moved up to begin a lay preacher in the church. So from 85 June until 1988, where I get involved with every home and day. So the beginning of my Christian life, I began in the village. I developed my life in the village. So I thank God for my parents. Never regret about they are my parents, because they taught me hard work. The only thing they didn't teach me the reality of God. But when I come to know God now and know how to worship God in spirit and in truth, that's when I realize the importance of hard work, that faith cannot work without work. So now I have the balance now, because I like to work hard as much as I can. At the same time, I now know the reality of God through the person of Jesus Christ. So the passion grew every day to study the Word, preach the Word, teach the Word of God in the Methodist Church. And one of the exciting thing to me, before I got saved, because I used to take cover for sometimes and smoking, not just smoking lightly, heavy smoking, for just a few years. 1 year before I got saved, I left both the smoking and the drinking of kava. See, I left that. And I realized when I got saved, it was the Lord that was already working in me to lose the desires of smoking and drinking. Now, when I got saved, I was just free. I have no problem with kava or anything, because I already left that. So that's the beginning of the changes in my life. So when I come to know God, then the strength of my body begins to increase. So in 85, 86, 87, I left again my village in Undu Point. I returned to the farm. In the farm, then I want to restore again the dream that I had before. So then I go back into farming. At the same time, some of the things that I planned to do a little business and make money. So I now began to do some buying of wet cocoa beans and dried them and sell them. And every fortnight I used to have thousands of dollars in my pocket. Now the excitement of going back to the farm is now reborn again in me. And slowly, when I begin to get excited about that, then I feel too my passion of going out and reaching out slowly growing cold. And that year in 1988, a team led by Storyteller, who is now, Pastor Storyteller is now in Lautoka, led a team of students from Senwalo. They came and stayed with us in Navetau village for 2 weeks. That was when this passion of knowing God, but this time it increases now of going out, because we see these young people, we do Bible study every night, they do skit in the day, we go and do some work, making new gardens. After 2 weeks, many of us who were then following the work of every home since that day, Choshavanaka's family, who is now Tatalnaka today, their family, my family, and few other families in that village, we begin to support the every home for Christ at that time. And when Tatalise and the team left to Senwalo, we began our fellowship back in Navetau from 1988. At that time, the every home base was in Sabsabu, and that's where we connect ourselves to the Sabsabu base, where Tomasi Marivilala and also Ulasi Ulila Kemba, who's already gone to be with the Lord, and also Sakare Mataga also returned home. They were the coordinators at that time. So that's when everything began. So joining the Every Home just as a supporter from the village. At that time, much of the work that was done, it really needs the support of those people who are being reached by the work of those young people who were reaching out to every houses. So to us, I commit my life and also my family. I was asking my parents if we could be supporting the ministry financially, because I still see thousands of kava was still there, and much of the resources that we have that we set aside for ourselves, beginning from that time. So my parents were willing to support the work while it was in Sabu in 1988. In 1989, there was a new base that was set up in Sangani, and William Malumu, who is now Pastor William Malumu, is now the Taltala in Watukula, who was the base coordinator there. So when we started the base in Sangani, so there were workers in the day. Ilson is now in Australia, and others are now pastors. Penny Bunedabo is now a pastor, who is now in Lambasa. One of my very close friends, William Tumabana, is already recalled to be with the Lord too. We were once at that time the supporters who were called Angase, who were leading fellowship in the day. So he was the one looking after the fellowship in Nambutini, and I was taking care of the one in Navitau. And at the same time too, we begin to attend weekend camps that was conducted at Senwalo in the day. In Senwalo, in one of those camps in 1988, that's when I heard Tatal Sules Kulo, when he taught about the vision, especially teaching us about the Great Commission of reaching out to the rest of the world. At that time, because of my little doing business back in the village, when I recovered 1987 and 88, I got a little bit of money that was in the bank. So that weekend, I withdrew all the money. It's not that much. I think it's less than $100 was there. I brought that money and I sowed it as a seed. And I was telling the Lord, this is my seed, seed of my own life, that I'm committing my life now to the work that I'm hearing today about taking the gospel to the rest of the world. That was the day the vision of reaching the world with the gospel is now established in my heart. I sowed a seed there in 1988. Now in 1989, as I said, now we start the base in Sangani, and 1991, after in the second round of reaching out to the villages around Fiji through every home. At that time, the CMF Church was already birthed, because it was birthed in 1990, and the Sangani base was responsible for the island of Ovalau, Moturiki, Makongai, and Wakaya. So in 1991, I led a team. We reached out to the island of Ovalau, Moturiki, Wakaya, and Makongai. So that's where I walk around the whole island of Ovalau, from Lovoni and all the coastal villages all around. I walk around the whole island of Ovalau, reaching out. That's through the Every Home ministry, and at the same time organizing people who are willing, that if the church can be established there. So the church later was established in 1992. That year too, 1992, I left Ovalau and returned to our base in Sangani. That's that year too, I got married to Litiano, one of the workers of the day. And after our marriage, we choose to return home to Undu Point, to my village at Nangasowa. But there was also a base to Undu at that time, based in Langinivisau, in the village of Langi, in Madwata. The base coordinator there was Sebane Mairewa, the late husband of Nausera Mairewa, who is a worker here at the Wallace Center. They were the base coordinator at that place, and also at the same time the pastor of that base. That was 1993. I attended the conference here in 1993. After the conference, Tatal Mairewa called me and he was asking me that he wants the church to be planted in the island of Solebu in the Mamanuda groups. Okay? So after the conference, I went to Malolo with the two other boys. They are both pastors today. Vereniki, who is the pastor in Dongotuki today, and Kalivati is now somewhere in the west. They were my boys. We went to plant the church in the village of Solebu. In Solebu in the day, there was only the Methodist church was allowed. No other church was allowed. But thank God for that favor. That year, in 1993, we were able to plant the church in that village where we have a church today that is taking care of all the Mamanuda groups. So 1994, we now return home, and Tatal Maria want us to go to the Bible school. In the Bible school at that time, Tatal William Lomoloma was the principal of the school. Asinada Valili was one of the staff who is now Asinada Sela. And those were the staff that I can recall. Sakusa Mailase, who is now Tatal Sakusa Mailase, one of the workers. Orisi, he just passed on just a few weeks ago, was also one of the workers there. And a few others, Manuel Koluniviti, who is now joining an Indian ministry today, and a few others who were there during that time. So in 1994, when I arrived in San Waloa, because of my background of farming, I was thinking about, okay, we are here now. I really want to know whether we really have food in the garden or not. So I arrived there 2 weeks before the school started. So when I arrived there, we left our bags. So I asked Talavili, can we go and check the garden, because I want to see the place. So we went to Sarava. Many of those who are attending the school in the day, they know what Sarava is all about. Sarava is in one of those hills in that part of Honolulu, close to the airport, the Wengele airport. So when you sit on that hill, it is a wonderful view. That's why they call it Sarava. Okay? To look at the view, you can look at the sea, the islands, and it is really exciting. So I went to Sarava and I saw the cassava that was there. I know this won't fit us or enough for us that year. So I asked Pastor Willie, please give me the farm to manage it, because I know the cassava that is there, it won't be enough for us if we pull it early. So by now, that was February, in the next 4 months, we need to look for other avenue to find food. But we have to leave the cassava. At the same time, we have to replant all the gardens that need to be replanted. So that year, there were 40 full-time students, and there were 65 volunteers too. They came for discipleship. There were about 100 students who were there. So it was a very big number. So everybody knows how to live in a boarding school. And this is a Bible school, a faith-based school. In the school, as we began that year, we go to school, we go and clean sugarcane. At the same time, through Tatala Village relationship with those Indian farmers, they provide breadfruit for us. So within 4 months, we were able to receive miracles from the Lord. Then the breadfruit in many of these Indian farmers remain bearing fruit until the month of June that year, or July, when the cassava in Sarava was ready. So Sarava is one of the wonderful places that for training. And that year, there were so many young people, many of them who were coming from the city. Many of them at the same year too, they learn how to light the fire for the first time, because all their life they know how to use gas stove and kerosene stove. They do not know how to light the fire, so they learn how to light the fire. Many of them too, they attend the school, they learn for the first time to wash in a muddy river. They learn that too. And many of them, they also attend, who came from the city, they learn how to go to the farm. And many of them in the first 3 weeks. Every week when we go to Sarawak, they cry because you have to climb up a hill. It's not that easy. Students from Papua New Guinea, from the Solomon Islands, and other islands across the Pacific, and here from Fiji. And many of them, they cry for the first 3 weeks. I always encourage them. You will cry until all your tears will dry. We will be coming to Sarawak every week, because coming to Sarawak, it will be a wonderful memory of training here, because when you go in other parts of the world, you will remember Sarawak is a good place that God uses to make you to become better people, strong people, so that you can build up your faith and your character for you to be strong. And persevere in whatever you go through in life. So we spent 2 years in the Bible school. So I attend school the first year. The second year I spent full time in the farm. So when I was in the Bible school, my thought of reaching out to the world, I was thinking, because there are 3 ways to do this. You can pray, you can give, you can go. Maybe my part now, because this is a training school, I have to stay here, plant the food, so that people who are trained here, they'll reach out to the world. But right very deep within my heart, I really want to go. I really want to go to the other parts of the world. 94, and comes 95. 1995, Tatal Suli returned from Papua New Guinea. And then he came to visit us during the Fiji Day celebration in that year in Senwaloa. And that year too, he informed Tatal Vili there's a space available in Papua New Guinea, and there are 2 couples need to go. And he has to ask me and my wife, and also Master Iniro was that Master Numbu, and at that time, and Salamek Mbose, to ask them if we are willing to take that space that is made available in New Guinea. So we were informed in 1995, Tatalinia, and who is now the pastor in the UK, and also to inform us, asking us if we are available, and we say yes to the call. So 1995, we have the call to be a missionary to the nation of Papua New Guinea. So we were commissioned in 1996, and we left our shores in 1998. So when we left, we were blessed to be the first Christian Mission Fellowship missionary to be sent from the church to reach out to the other parts of the world, because others who were sent from here. They were under the Every Home burner, but to us, we were very privileged to be given the opportunity and the trust from our leaders to be the first one to be sent to begin that journey from Christian Mission Fellowship and to go and help another existing church in the highlands of Papua New Guinea. So we arrived there in 1998, and we went and started Bible school and also ran the administration. So that year, we were able to get the church organized and prepare a structure, also put into writings a vision to provide them the direction. So in 1999, we organized a conference, and we invited Tatal Suli to be the guest speaker. So that year too, and we organized for them to sow seed to the man of God. And that year, when Tatal Suli came, he preached during the conference, and when he was about to return, so Tatal in the end gave him an envelope. There were more than $7,000. And that was the seed that was sown by the pastors who were in the conference. And later Tatal Suli told us the story when he received that money. And that was also was a divine way for him to receive a direction from the Lord that he has to expand to other parts of the world in church planting. So that was the time too when the church extended its arm to reach out to the rest of the world. And today, as I speak, we are reaching out to more than 100 nations, and the rest is history. As we see, the work is now expanded to across the Pacific, to Africa, Southeast Asia, and other parts of the world, in Europe. As we see, the church has been planted there. At the same time, we have leaders who are sent there to establish the church in the United Kingdom, in the United States of America, in Australia, New Zealand, and many nations in Africa and Southeast Asia, and Cambodia. So we stayed in New Guinea for 6 years. In 2003, in December, we were posted to go and pastor the church in Australia, in Melbourne. So that's when we organized, when we were in Australia, to start the work in Cambodia. So at that time, there were only 3 churches in Australia, one in Brisbane, the other one was in Sydney. Tatal St. Loli was the pastor in Brisbane, Tatal Pedro Ngarika was in Sydney, so we came to Melbourne. So in 2004, we have a meeting, the pastors and the elders there, and we challenge one another that we need to adopt a unreached group. So then we agreed to do so. So I called Pastor Suli, and they said, okay, you adopt Cambodia. In 2006, at that time, Metui Selvinvo already passed on to be with the Lord. He was one of the workers and Chonavagaruru in Melbourne with me. So Metui was chosen to go and start the work there. In 2006, we went and see the place, and that's when the work started in the nation of Cambodia. And for a few years, it was fully supported by the Australian churches before everything was centralized here at the headquarters for the support and the fundings of all the missions around the world. So that's how the work was started in Cambodia from 2006 until to this very day. The work is now big and now reaching out to other neighboring nations of Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, and other parts of those neighboring nations, and we thank God for the work that is taking place. And returning to Fiji, and after spending 3 years here, pastoring a local church in Luwu, and now we return to New Guinea for the second time, spent another 2 years as missionary in New Guinea, and then we return home in 2014. So arriving here in 2014, since then we are still here at the World Harvest Center. So some of the things that I learned over the years that I want to conclude with my story today. The number one lesson I learned when I was growing up is to work hard. That's what I learned from my parents, so I appreciate so very much the very reality of our parents, and I never regret any time for my parents to be my parents, even though they were not really Christians then, and later when I got saved, they also got saved and become the #1 supporters of the work that I was part of. At the same time, become the #1 prayer warriors to this very day. My dad already passed on to be with the Lord 2013, and my mom's still here today, and now at 85, still doing the same thing since the day you come to know the Lord, praying for us. And always wonderful to have your parents to be there to support you in prayer, especially in the prayer part of life. So they become the #1 prayer supporters, and while we were back in the bases of the day, they become the #1 financial supporters of the work of every home since then, and to the work of the church to this very day. And lesson number 2 that I learned as I'm growing up since then until today is to be responsible. To be responsible for everything that is given to you, the task, the responsibility, the ministry, the calling, the trust that is bestowed upon your life, that we need to be to be trusted to value the things that is given to you in order for you to truly to be a blessing to the people that God has given you or the leaders that you are serving under. So the wonderful lesson that I learned then is to be responsible. Whatever it's given to you, I want to encourage those who are listening and watching tonight. We are to be committed, as the Bible says, whatever your hands finds to do, do it with all of your heart or with all of your strength. Kendona kamuna wakambimbita ka weekend na mbung indai ni wara mo ibang lawara ti unan ngui tano lega lengon mbung ni kuwa weekenda ya menda kuwa ni mberda na nonda itikitiki bu ka kenda lagu turuma itikitinga ni nonda beba karo tagina turanga me aloma ni singa indai ya una lesson le populida na ngula ko tikumai ya na taka pa kau se dava lagu mai se dava na mbole enda lagu turuma senga soti ni indona kaya amenda raidal takas enda raidikenda sumukina vika kenda ndo lagu turuma itikitinga ni nonda beba karo tagina turanga se koi kina nonda mbula indona taro ndo taro ina dava na ngauna binaka se dava na ngauna da enda lagu turuma ina nonde lako ya uke ndo na ngauna da ura ni ukaya ngase ngauna mbole ngauna benga nungu staban to mati tapi kake do staban nungu lago mai na susungi mai ni tigibu me lago na kau lago duruma na ngauna ni binga rapi na ngauna ni mission field le busar na bika e bora and then but I didn't count that as the worst moment. Those are wonderful moments because all those challenges has helped me to be shaped and to become much stronger in the face of adversary because we are able to challenge our own life so that we can confront those challenges. And the way to do that, you have to be responsible. To be responsible, that he was able to take upon himself the blame of other people. Non darao ni taura sei koia na bimbitaki na valera da kapitale so men da bangan din tango kendan do buli da mai but early in our Christian journey we always learn how to intercede on behalf of others yang dra mai buli da ngau mai muri tikina ngau ni bingara ni bro melo mai na satu cheme ko to be an intercessor. But I go a little bit further when I study about the life of Jesus, that to be an intercessor is like to be a lawyer, to represent someone. The Holy Spirit is the intercessor. Jesus also interceding for us. So to us here as believers, the lesson that I learn is for you to humble enough to take the blame that you did the wrong, that others did, rather than blaming other people for what had happened. So that's one of the wonderful lessons that I learned. If there's some worst moment in my life, it's only the challenging about sickness because I want to do more, but along the way when I got sick, I got mad because when I was in New Guinea, I got malaria more than 20 times and twice during that time, I was about to go to. So my experience about sickness, because here, when I was here in 1981, I asked God to die, but that time, when that time comes, when I go to the worst, I ignore about the death and all this, and I thank God for His goodness. So that's one of the wonderful lessons that I learned about tough time, that we are to forget about the pain, the challenges, the fear, or the threats, or the report of the doctor, and you have to remind yourself, I just have to thank God for His goodness. Me mo ibang labar tingnan mo indai kendo na ka na rawan yung nakaya me mundo bibaw no mikina weekend na itamban de tiun kuwa nda wakatawulida say koya men dalon din na itabia kini weekend kina kalokal lew kalai dalon din kina nda bagamuriya tinga na weekend tu ni weekend men da kaban una lon to loko da kaban bako binaka baleta etigo na singa ni tata musuki menera bagan din takina ke ndo na ka una numa ke sharmaniali na bulongo me una gai bagan numi tukina me na kanga na kate mo numi kina yau au ambuletiko, and ambulongo, au abono takabula kuspil, akwazeranga. If there's a legacy that we need to leave behind, it's just the legacy of people that we reach out to, and they have become the letters, the history books of your very own life, because for the world to know that you did exist here on the earth. But for the purpose of the gospel, the greatest thing that I'm blessed to live my life in this life, to represent the kingdom of God and presenting his gospel to the rest of the world. And now I'm happy to be here at Wolabe Center in Suba and to be part of the training. So I'm married to Litiana Dangunu from the village of Sangani in the Kongrobe, and we have one son, Royal Blessing to Sulu, and right now I'm here at Wolabe Center, one of the staff of World Harvest Institute, and I, Manas to Sulu, Pinawolibu.